So this is part 3 of the things that affectability of transition metal complexes. So we've already looked at other things like the Irvin-Williams series, ligand field stabilization energies, the Jahn-Teller effect, the basicity of the ligands, hard soft acid base theory, and the pH of solution. So the last three things that we'll look at is the denticity of the ligands and the chelate effect, the size and the bulk of the ligands, and also the macrocyclic effect. Now the denticity of a ligand, this is the number of binding sites on a ligand. So maybe if we have a monodentate ligand, so let's just say NH3, it only has one pair that can donate to a metal complex. But if we have ethylene diamine, so it has two nitrogens with lone pairs, and you've got the carbon linker in between the two, those lone pairs can donate to the metal center and bind. So that would be a chelating ligand. That's a bidentate ligand. And the chelate effect is the greater stability of a complex containing a coordinated polydentate ligand compared with a complex containing the equivalent number of an analogous monodentate ligands. So a bidentate ligand would create a more stable complex than two monodentate ligands. And of course, a tridentate ligand would be even more stable, and a tetradentate even more stable. So the more times the ligands bite, the more stable the complex is. And we can use thermodynamics to explain the chelate as an entropic effect. So let's go back to our example here. If we're using an amine ligand and an ethylene diamine ligand, we would expect that the enthalpic effects to be very similar because they're both nitrogens donating electron density to the metal. So we expect the enthalpy terms to be very similar. But it's going to be the entropy that's going to affect the stability of that complex. So if we increase the entropy of the system when we bind our ligands to the metal, this is going to make this term more negative. So if delta S goes up, and this is a negative term, delta G is going to become more negative. That means more spontaneous. And the more spontaneous that reaction is, the larger the equilibrium constant associated with that. So let's explain the enthalpy, the entropy effect of that. So at the top here, we're looking at a metal complex with 6 monodentate ligands. And we want to add 3 bidentate ligands. So we're going to replace all of these little green spheres with these gray spheres. Now when this bidentate ligand complexes the metal, we're going to increase the entropy. Because notice here at the beginning when we had the metal complex and the 3 ligands, we have 4 things in our system. But replacing the ligands, the monodentate with the chelate ligands, creates 7 things. We've got the metal complex as 1, and then these 6 monodentate ligands. So we've increased the entropy here. So by increasing the entropy, we've caused the delta G to become more negative. Now if we compare this for a monodentate ligand, we're starting off with 7 things. 6 ligands, and then the 6 ligands that are already attached to the metal, so 1 metal complex, and then 6 free ligands. And when you exchange those ligands, you still end up with 7 things, so we don't have any change in entropy. So this is why the chelate effect, so the chelate effect says that a ligand with multiple binding sites will form a more stable complex, and we can attribute that entropy. So one of the examples that I like to use when explaining the chelate effect is imagine that you and a friend are walking some dogs. You have 6 dogs, and all 6 of your dogs are all tethered to one leash. And your other friend also has 6 dogs, but has 6 separate leashes and they're not attached. So let's say you get to talking, you lose track of time, and you accidentally drop the leashes, and the dogs start running and taking off. Well, just think about who's going to have the easier time collecting all 6 of your dogs back. Imagine your friend having to find one dog, hold on to the leash, then going and finding a second dog, holding on to its leash, and then going to the third and the fourth and the fifth. So you got to get all these 6 dogs, which are all scattered, all out. Compared to you, where if you catch one dog, since they're all tethered together, it's easier for you to have all 6 dogs because they're all connected to each other. So that's one of the ways I'd like to explain the chelate effect, because if you've got one atom of a chelating system, the other ones are already in close proximity, and it's easier for them to bind the metal center and to complex with the metal, rather than doing it one piece at a time and finding get the other one to come in all separately. So this next slide, we demonstrate that with some data, and here we're using ammonia and ethylene diamine. So remember that ammonia is that NH3, and you got the lone pair, and then the ethylene diamine. So the linker between the nitrogens, and you've got the N8, you've got the 2 hydrogens there, but you've got the lone pairs on the nitrogen to complex to the metal. Draw another ammonia on there, so we've got the same number of nitrogens. So remember that denticity of the ammonia, since there's only one atom to coordinate to the metal with the lone pair, so only one atom with the lone pair to coordinate to the metal, its denticity is 1. Whereas ethylene diamine is a bidentate ligand, so it's got 2 binding sites to bind to the metal. And so look at the formation constant. So here we both have copper complexes binding the ligands, and both are tetrahedral species. So here you've got a cobalt with 4 separate amines around it, and I'm just going to draw the rest of it just to save time, and another tetrahedral complex with nitrogens, except these have a linker to make this a bidentate ligand. Let's compare the values of the formation constants for these 2 reactions. The monodentate ligand has a log beta value of 13. And that B4, that 4 represents, there are 4 steps in that overall reaction. But the log beta 4 for this is 13. Compare this to the overall formation constant of this copper complex, that's 19.6. So the complex with the chelating ligand, so the bidentate ligand, is much more stable because you've got a larger formation constant than the monodentate ligand. And also, again, remember that we're comparing apples and apples when we're talking about the enthalpy, because those are both copper nitrogen bonds, so we expect the enthalpy to be very similar. It's the entropy that's different. Now, something else that affects the stability of complexes is the size and the bulk of ligands. So ring size. 5-membered rings form the most stable complexes. So we have the metal, and if we count the ring size, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're the most stable because you have the optimal angle of attachment for where these ligands attach to the metal, so it forms the most stable complex. Now, 4 and 6-membered rings are also possible, but you've got more strain if you've got a 4-membered ring, and the 6 you've got starts to open the angle up too much. So these are, these still can happen, but 5 is preferential. 4 is too little, 6 too big, 5's just right, kind of like Goldilocks and the 3 bears. And of course you can have 3, 7, and 8-membered rings, but these are unlikely and they're much less stable. So there's ring size, but also the bulkiness of a ligand can affect the stability of the complex. So in this first example here, this complex would be more stable than this complex. And the reason why is because this ligand doesn't have a lot of extra things blocking, so you don't have anything here on the ligands to block and interfere when the ligand approaches the metal and binds the metal. Whereas this complex, you've got these other substituent groups that are hanging out, sticking out, and when the ligand tries to bind to the metal, they have to move out of the way. So the bulkier the ligands are, the less stable the complex. So it's more crowded, more sterically hindered. So here we have some examples to illustrate those concepts. And the first reaction, in the first complex here, we have a nickel with the ethylene diamine. So this forms a 5-membered ring. The formation constant for this, the log value of that is 7.33 compared to the 6-membered ring of 6.3. So remember, the larger the formation constant, the more stable the complex. So this is more stable than the 6-membered ring. Now let's compare the bulk of the ligand. So we're looking at a less bulky ligand. So if the R group are hydrogens, so we're going to say that those are hydrogens, and this nitrogens bind to a nickel 2 plus, the log beta value is 20.05. Now if that R group is bulky, like if we change that to an ethyl group, so CH2, CH3, notice how the log value drops from 20 to 14.18 just by changing this R group from a hydrogen to an ethyl group. So you've got more bulk around here. It'll interfere when the lone pairs on the nitrogen try to bind to the metal. So the less bulky, the more stable the complex. Now the last thing we're going to look at is the macrocyclic effect. And a macrocyclic molecule is just simply a cyclic molecule, and it has 3 or more potential donor atoms, and they're arranged in fixed positions with less entropic effects in binding energy with equal number of donor atoms. So basically you have a big ring with some donor atoms on the ring, and those donor atoms can donate electron density and bind to the metal. And the macrocyclic effect increased thermodynamic stability of a complex formed between a metal ion and the multidentate macrocyclic ligand compared to the complex between the same ion and the corresponding open chain ligands. So this is where, if you had any experience wearing bracelets or buying a bracelet for somebody, think about a bangle. So a bangle is just a hoop that you can put your wrist through. And another bracelet, you have the hook on one side and you've got the hook on the other, and you've got the chain of the bracelet, and you're going to have to wrap that around your wrist to put the bracelet on. Well, a bangle is much easier to put on. All you've got to do is slide your wrist through the hole. Whereas if you've got a bracelet with a hook, you've got to, lay your hand there, wrap it around, and try to attach one end to the other. So this is representing, this bangle being easier to put on represents what's going on, the macrocyclic effect. So here we have some data. Here we have a crown ether. So the crown ether has all these oxygen ligands or donor atoms, and they've got lone pairs to donate to the central metal. So this is already arranged into a ring, and all the metal ion has to do is sit within the ring itself to be bound. Now pentaglyme, notice you've got the same oxygen donor to bind to the metals. So we're going to have this very similar type complex. But this is an open chain here, so it's not connected. So for this to bind to the potassium, one end has to bind, and the other side has to wrap around to engulf the potassium. And so notice the free binding energies of the potassium, and this is the methanol. So the pentaglyme, that binding free energy is -3 kcals per mole, compared to the macrocyclic compound, -8.4. So this is much more stable than the pentaglyme complex. So the crown ether potassium complex is more stable than the open chain analog of the potassium complex, and we attribute this to the macrocyclic effect. The ligand is already in a preformed arrangement so that the metal can just fit in here, whereas with the open chain it has to wrap around and get in the right configuration to bind the metal complex. Okay, so that concludes our slides for the stabilities, the things that affect the stability of transition metal complexes. If you have questions, please feel free to ask me in class, and we can discuss some of these more when we're all together.